Yeah, I think a few days ago we talked this on Slack, and there are several things that we need to do. First, I think kube control apply is a big goal of the next milestone.
Yeah.
We should make it reliable. And there are already a big issue to track this. I will link this.
Yeah, I have a tracking issue for all the things with apply, and I definitely agree we should be resolving the issues so people can depend upon it.
Yes. So the problem is, I think we need to find a task owner of the next milestone, and who is responsible for this.
Yeah, for the
I think Mochi has helped a lot with this.
Yeah, and and he'll be continuing to have that be his primary focus.
Okay, that's cool.
So we could continue to talk about this more, or we can go through the agenda first and then come back to this. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, no, I don't really have a strong preference, but I think giving a individual quick status update would be nice, if that's okay for you guys. So for me, like this past, it's been a little more than a month already, actually, since our last meeting. And this past few weeks for me specifically has been pretty much about going over issues and doing code reviews, things like that. I did work a little bit on something related to new features, specifically about kubectl extensions. So you guys remember there is a pull request from Clayton. It's a doc pull request about kubectl extensions. So something I tried to do was start some drafts, a kind of proof of concept about extensions like plugins for kubectl. So I have a pull request for that. Really, an early draft, not even a proposal yet, but kind of a proof of concept. What I wanted to achieve was to try to, set up some framework for kubectl extensions that would allow extension writers write something in another language, in a language other than Go. So I wrote a kind of a little bit framework and an extension written in Ruby script. But that's really not even a pull request open for review. It was really a proof of concept. But other than that, for me, this past couple of weeks were pretty much about a lot of code reviews, and not even much bug fixing for me, but a lot, reviewing stuff from other people and taking a look at our backlog of issues, things like that.
Yes, I think extension in general should be a big goal of 1.6, and the kube control plugin should be a part of that.
Yeah, I agree. I personally like that proposal a lot. I'm not sure if we will be able to achieve a final version or a GA for plugins for 1.6. But in my opinion, we should at least have a proposal, right? So if we don't have an implementation yet, we should, for 1.6, at least understand exactly what we want and have a solution proposal or in a document, something like that. If we are able to achieve an implementation, that would be really great. I'm personally interested in the matter, but I'm not sure if we should, agree on really have that as a goal for 1.6, because as far as I'm seeing from discussions in that pull request, there are a lot of things to discuss and to become to an agreement. So not sure if we will be able to do that in time for 1.6, but at least having a proposal would be nice, yeah. But anyway, in terms of status, that's it for me.
Cool. All right, I can give a quick status. I've been traveling for 3 out of the last 5 weeks, and then was also Thanksgiving was out. So I haven't had a chance to work on much besides the events I've been attending. One thing I was working on this last week was the 2017 goals for my team. And one thing I'm trying to do is thematically group specific work items in the context of broader strategic goals. And so one of those is like apply, and how does it relate to the other config management tools or config management commands, and what do we want the full story to be? Extensions is another one we're focusing on, which includes the extensions proposal, but also has some other extension points, like how do we allow third-party resources and other extensions to define how they're displayed natively using annotations or something like that. I'll put a design doc together more for that. And then supporting like third-party resources with kubectl apply, which doesn't work very well now, and that sort of thing. And then also getting, I think, the technical debt or engineering excellence or whatever you want to call it is another thing that we probably want to spend some time on. It would be really, really incredible if we could get kubectl out of the main repo and into its own Kubernetes / CLI repo or something like that. I think it would allow us to have a lot more control over the code.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I personally wasn't able to attend KubeCon this year, unfortunately. But did you guys had any discussion about client tools or anything like that that would, require a follow-up from us or anything like that?
I don't think so. I don't think there were anything, any ideas that were drastically different than the stuff we've been discussing.
Okay.
Except for, which wasn't even out of KubeCon, but out of with Eric Toon talking about, I think extensions, this came out in the extensions design doc as well, but we need to think about when we extend resources, how can we do it in a way that's can be consumed by as many clients as possible? So for instance, the dashboard needs to have a display for third-party resources and federated API resources. And kubectl will probably also want to have customized display around them. And so whatever solutions we design should be supported by both those to the extent that's possible. That's all I got, though.
Okay. Anyone else? Doug, I see Doug and Frankel also in the meeting. Do you guys have any status to share?
Doug, nothing from me.
You're on mute.
I mean, the only thing I was going to mention was I'm working on exposing config maps as environment variables, which is going to, well, there's a tie where they want to extend how create config map works so that you can pull in Docker's environment files. But right now we're getting wrapped up into how much it will look like or not look like what's already there under create config map. So I'm kind of concerned that we're going to have some inconsistencies across some of the parameters that you can specify for something like create config map. We may just punt on that for now and come back to it in a different proposal and not tie it up with my current proposal, which is more focused on how to expose the environment variables in containers and then worry about the kubectl changes later.
Okay, I guess that's it in terms of status updates. Real quick about the 1.5 release. We don't have any issues listed as blockers as of now, so that's pretty good. Any other comments about the 1.5 release? Anything we still have to address before the release? But from my end, I don't think there's anything we have to do. So. Okay. I guess that's it then. Then moving to the 1.6 release, we were already talking about it. As I said, I tried to start a real quick roadmap document for the 1.6 release. Link is on the chat. Really not a proposal yet, as I said, but I tried to pick some items mentioned by Brian in our last meeting, and some other things that are important from our issues backlog. So what I would propose personally, I'm not sure if we will be able to address all of this for the 1.6 release, but like I did, I would propose for you guys to add topics here to this document, things you would like to see in the roadmap for 1.6. I'm not exactly sure the calendar for 1.6, if any of you guys could have that in mind and could share. But anyway, overall, the proposal would be try to come up with a roadmap document as our proposal for 1.6. As I'm seeing from the community meetings and some other meetings, it seems that in a lot of SIGs, 1.6 has been a lot about stabilization and finishing incompleted items. So doing tech depth, fixing issues, all of that, to a point where we don't. Some SIGs even don't get many new features or don't get new features at all, and pretty much focus on really stabilize what they have for 1.6. So that would be one idea. We have a lot of stuff in our backlog, both in terms of issues, bugs, and also tech debt. But anyway, if we decide to work on new features, we can add that to the document, and we could come up with a proposal, roadmap for 1.6. I guess at some point, it would be nice for us to share that, the SIG CLI proposal roadmap for 1.6 and things we are looking forward to work on for that release.
That makes sense to me. Should we add the suggestions to the roadmap with maybe our name after them, and then discuss in the comments? Or what do you think the appropriate way to develop the 1.6 roadmap is?
I don't know. The way it works better for you guys. Maybe we don't need to do that right now in the meeting, because I know there are a lot of items that require us to take a look at the list of issues on GitHub and things like that. So we could either each people do it individually, and we try to sync up by email or in the other meeting. But I'm not sure if now in 2 weeks is maybe too late. But anyway, up to you. But we don't have to necessarily work on it right now. I don't know. What do you prefer, Philip?
Why don't we finish the rest of the meeting, and then with the time that we have at the end, then we can see how far we get on that, maybe?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, works for me. So the other item I had is the self-assessment for SIGs. So that was also something that came up from Sarah as a proposal for each SIG doing this assessment. And Tony forwarded an email earlier today. So I believe it's nice for us to go over each bullet point and make sure everything is addressed. So initially, that's in the meeting agenda and notes document. So initially, does your SIG on code in Kubernetes or elsewhere? If within Kubernetes, is it reflected in the owners files? So specifically about the owners files, I think we did that a few weeks ago, right? So there was a review of our owners files for the kubectl package specifically. So I believe in that topic specifically, we are looking good. So anyone has anything to add to that? Okay, so the next one, does your SIG spend time responding to user issues in GitHub on Stack Overflow or the SIG mailing list? So for me specifically, I really don't spend too much time on Stack Overflow. I really don't know if there's anyone that tracks that in our SIG about user issues on GitHub. So as I said in my status update, that's something I've been doing a lot this past release. So I believe overall we are looking pretty good. What I feel like is we are still lacking some tooling around it. So so for example, there are some discussions trying to address that already. But things like we being able to put pull requests to add looks good to me to pull requests for example. So that's one issue we had today. If issues, so for example, for me and Tony specifically, if pull requests are assigned to us, we can add the looks good to me flag, but we can't set the release note label. So that's an issue. I believe that's being adjusted. But anyway, there are still a few things in terms of tooling to address that, like I don't know, receiving notifications when there are issues related to our SIG, something like that. So there are some things in terms of the community that we still have to address. But overall, every time I am able to check there are new issues, new pull requests, things related to our SIG on GitHub, I personally have been working on them. So would you guys comment anything about that topic?
Yeah, Fabiano, I just get some. I think I get some simple statistics about the issues we have already.
Mm-hmm.
I shared some simple data that a few days ago with Phil. We have already almost 500 issues related with kube control, and you can find that in GitHub. I think there are some cleanup work we should do, since some issues are actually not related with kube control, but it has the kube control label. So we need to do some cleanup work. Also, there are some, let me find the old statistics. Okay. We still get we still get 17, almost 17 PE. The first priority issues. Still too much. I think we need to find some time to try to figure out these issues and close it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think on a related note, it might be time to have a little more structured process for triaging the issues. I know I've seen both of you triaging them and commenting on issues, and I try and triage all the ones labeled with coup control. I don't know. I guess I'd be interested in getting a feeling for how you think the process is working for us, and if it's too much to have all of us reviewing them all the time, or if that's working for us.
Yeah, something we do eventually here in OpenShift is a bug triage meeting. So meetings are sometimes not always the solution, but eventually once in a week or once in every couple of weeks we do some kind of triage meeting. Sometimes there are just a couple of people. Sometimes there are just one people. So, but we take one meeting just to triage and close issues that are already fixed, because with that amount of issues, like 500, eventually you fix something and you don't even realize you are fixing an issue that stays open, right? So from time to time, at least until we are able to reduce that amount of issues in the backlog, it would be maybe nice, that could be even done individually, but to take some time to take the entire list of issues, take a look at them and at least close what's already addressed. And, because I'm pretty sure that in that amount of stuff, 500 are probably stuff fixed already, or things that are no longer an issue or anything like that. But yeah, maybe coming up with a better process and tooling around doing that. So maybe receiving some notifications or being able to take some time to triage, along with having the required access to do that, like close issues, something like that, could help us to address that. Anyway, otherwise it will just getting worse probably.
Yeah, I don't even know what our reasonable goal is there. Like, we could try and keep the bug count down to a specific number, or it could just grow linearly over time. Or maybe we want to say that, have some labeling systems so we keep bugs around just for tracking purposes, but label them as such with no intention of closing them, or, I don't know.
Yeah, not sure either. Anyway, I think that's probably a problem not only to us, right? It's a problem, all over the project today. And I guess there are some discussions happening in the community repo and from Brian about how we can address that. So anyway, we could maybe check what they come up with for after the 1.5 release. I saw already there are some things changing after the release, and apart that, maybe focus a little more on doing triage, making sure we have the required access to do that, something like that for now, maybe. Okay, anyway, moving to the next bullet point, is the balance between new features work and stabilization good over the last two releases? Do you feel the need to focus on stabilization in the next release, something else? So we really don't have history in this SIG to compare, right? So I'm not sure if you, Philip, have any information about that. But anyway, definitely some work on stabilization would be good, given given the amount of issues we have in the backlog.
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely need to do some stabilization. The number of issues, I'm not sure is. Yeah, I'm not sure if, how to interpret that metric on its own, but definitely some of the issues, like all the issues we're seeing with apply, which we're telling people to use, is a pretty good indicator.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, I liked a lot the way you were tracking that kubectl apply umbrella issue. So maybe one idea, and I could volunteer to do that. I could take a look at our backlog of issues, trying to identify, the most important ones and things that would be really interesting to have addressed, like, for example, in the 1.6 time frame, and try to create a few, of similar umbrella issues, listing the ones we would like to address. And then we could come up with, in the 1.6 roadmap plan, we could list a number of umbrella issues, like issues in kubectl, I don't know, help, for example, issues in kubectl, create subcommands, things like that. Have a number 5, 6, something like that, umbrella issues, listing the individual issues we would like to address. So I could volunteer to do that. And in the meantime, automatically I will kind of triage some things, because I will eventually find things that are already fixed or really we don't want to address. So, but anyway, I think that would be a nice idea. Have a number of more of those umbrella issues, and use those in our planning for 1.6, if that sounds good to you guys.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I think thematically grouping things makes the work seem much more manageable instead of just 500 separate things.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'll start doing some work about that, let's say until the end of this week, trying to come up with at least, some better organization of at least the most important ones, trying to identify real bugs and tech debt, things like that. So at least that's, a list of 500 things will be a little more manageable for us to come up with a plan. Okay. After that, overall, how do you feel good about the level of test coverage for code you're responsible for? Docs completeness, number of open bug reports. So about the test coverage, that's something I had in mind this past week. So we have an issue about making kubectl the actual features separate of the dependency of Cobra command and having those more reusable. So along with that probably comes with a better testing, because today we really don't have much unit tests for kubectl commands, right? And that's something we do here in OpenShift, but it kind of requires you to have the feature really separated from the commander code base, right? So that's one of the topics in terms of that tech debt that I personally think it is important. So being able to work a little more on this separation of concerns, the actual command code base and what it does. And by having it separate, you will probably be able to better unit test them. So A few commands already respect one of those proposals we had with the complete validate and run command, and that kind of gives us this separation and makes it unit testable. So I think that's something nice for 1.6, you know, being able to separate these things a little better, and with that come up with more unit tests.
Yeah, I think that sounds a good idea.
I think I even listed that as one topic in the roadmap document. Yeah, reduce the amount of dependency on Cobra and make commands available as a library. Even because another issue we have is moving stuff to the server side. So the client kubectl does kind of too much stuff in some cases. So at least being able to move them out of Cobra and have that as a separate reusable piece would be better, right?
Yes.
Yeah, totally. That'd be really helpful. I think, yeah, we probably need to figure out what we want to do there in terms of, like, does it belong in the API server as its own API, or run our own service, or yeah, there's a lot of ways we can solve that problem.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it in terms of self-assessment. Any other comments? Okay, that's it then. I guess we still have about 10 minutes, so we could discuss a little bit about the actual plan for 1.6. So, okay, so from my point of view, particularly, I think 1.6 could be a lot about stabilization for us, and you know, probably more about stabilization and a little bit of new features. But one proposal, and that comes along with the proposal for the entire Cube release for 1.6, would be to work a little more on stabilization, like that, improve documentation, things like that, and not that much on new features. Well, there are still things we would like to address, like extensions and a few other things, but it could be more about stabilization for us. Not sure if you guys agree, but I wouldn't make it a release entirely for stabilization. I think it's nice to deliver new features, especially because, you know, we are what end users face. kubectl is what end users use, so it's always nice to deliver new stuff. But yeah, we could give more focus to stabilization in 1.6, if you guys agree. Other than the extensions proposal, Philip, do we remember anything that would be important in terms of new stuff for the next release?
Sorry, let me pull up my doc I had. I think one thing that might be nice I had as like kind of a stretch was like diff for kube control apply. I think it would be really helpful when to have a mode where it shows you the actual changes it's going to send instead of just doing something, so you can validate they're correct. But that thematically goes with fixing many kube control apply issues. And then the other piece I had on my list was more generally around figuring out what the config management solutions are that people have been using. So like I know Box uses JSONet factoring, and so I don't know if there's anything to put there right now in terms of a deliverable, but other than maybe a proposal for 1.7.
Okay. Yeah, I remember something Brian also mentioned in our previous meeting was the tool distribution. So I'm not sure if that would be a goal for now, but anyway, I remember that was something he mentioned. Things like how to install it and keep kubectl up to date when you're not using other means as a distribution mechanism. So for example, installation and upgrade through your operating system. So think about, for example, Windows users, probably also Mac users. So how do they better install and keep kubectl up to date? So not sure if that would be something of interest, but anyway, Brian mentioned it at some point.
Yeah, I think that's a good piece. It probably has some relation to the extensions proposal.
Yeah.
Because the extent you need to, in both cases, you need to end up installing some software on your system, and then there's, I think, also packaging not just for the kubectl CLI, but kubeadmin, and these things are going to be developed into probably a suite of tools. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of exploration to be done there. I'd kind of consider that thematically as part of the technical debt umbrella issue. Maybe one way we could approach the problem is once we have some of those umbrella issues set up, we can stack rank within them which ones are the most important. Maybe that's the most important technical debt issue.
Yeah. Quickly looking through our notes from the previous meeting, if there's anything pushing complex functionality to the server. So we already mentioned that. Get and describe moving to the server. I saw that in some other SIGs planning. I think that was the API SIG, but not for 1.6. I guess it was from 1.7. But anyway, I saw that somewhere already. Yeah, pretty much a lot of Brian's comments was about having a focus on kubectl apply, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the big one.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, maybe we want to also start with what we want to get down in 2017, and then from there decide what is reasonable to accomplish in the Q1.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy. I also have to check the calendar because I'm not sure the approximate target for 1.6. So starting with the entire 2017 is a nice strategy.
Yeah, I'm not sure when. I think I actually do have some email somewhere that says when the 2017 SIG stuff needs to be done. The round tripping objects is another piece of buggy behavior / technical debt.
Which one is that? Sorry.
It's probably like the 6th from the bottom.
Okay, the round trip objects. Okay.
Yeah. That one's going to require some SIG API machinery changes, though.
Yeah.
So what I've done for my team's 2017 goals is I picked 4 themes that I wanted to focus on. And those were one is extension support. And so that's, there's probably 3 or 4 pieces that need to be done for that. Another is the technical debt pieces, which is like all the refactoring and repo moving and all the stuff we've just talked about. And another was the config lifecycle piece.
Mm-hmm.
And this was essentially building out, I feel like right now what we have is like tools. And we give people these like tools and say, look at like all the awesome features and commands. But we don't give great prescriptions for how does your team actually manage your application configs, right? Like, how do you get your initial configs? Should you be writing them from scratch, using like copying them off a blog, copying them off docs, forking an example in a Git repo? Like, what do people do? And then after that, it's like, how do you factor them? What's your directory structure look like? Do you store them in Git and push them there? Do you automatically push from Git to the cluster, or is that done by the user? Is that done with apply or create, or some other mechanism? And I think I have a document I'm working on that kind of outlines. I think I have about 8 different pieces to it. But so thematically, I think there's that would be another area that my team's focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
And we could have similar ones, or we could the SIG can come up with the other. But having 4 things, no more than 5 things, I think would probably be a good way of trying to tackle the problem.
Yeah, sounds good. And having them more like top level items, and it sounds actually that pretty much aligns with what we are discussing. So Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so do we want to set up some schedule for having that document next SIG meeting? Anything like that? We could keep working on the document and through email or Slack and have a final discussion in the next SIG meeting or something like that.
Yeah, and maybe we should set up a SIG meeting next week on Wednesday, like the same time, just to close the loop on it a little earlier. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it works for me.
Cool.
Okay, so sounds good to me. And same next Wednesday, same time, something like that.
That works for me. Tony?
Yeah. I think we still left something. If I remember correctly, we talked something about the annotation metadata. Philip, do you remember that?
Yeah.
So should we include this in 1.6?
I was planning on having a design proposal out for it in 1.6. I wasn't planning on signing up for more than that from within my team, but I don't know. That's a good question. I guess, yeah, let's see. Why don't I add some more details about what that is to the roadmap that Fabiano sent out, and then we can, next week when we look at all the items on the list and try and decide what we want to get done in 2017 and what we want to get done for 1.6, we can decide where that best fits in.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. And in the meantime, I'll work on the umbrella issues and trying to have some more organization so that can be a good background for us to have decisions about it.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, I gotta run.
Sure. Yeah, we are out of time. Thank you, guys, and I'll set up the meeting for next Wednesday, and see you there. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, see you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.